Oh, Julian, I just want to interrupt this episode of Veterinary Ramblings to say a big thank you to our sponsors, MAI and Thames Medical.
Oh, yes, they're very kindly sponsoring this episode of Veterinary Ramblings, aren't they?
They are indeed. And they will both be at the London Vet Show on stand J09.
Great.
So if you want to chat, pop along and see us. I'll be there as well.
See you then.
Hi, I'm Mike Brampton.
And my name is Julian Hoad.
Welcome to Veterinary Ramblings.
I wonder whether we should kick off by asking Manon a tricky question.
Oh, gee.
Go ahead.
And you'll forgive us, actually, Manon, if we do this. The whole thing of Veterinary Ramblings is that it's supposed to be light-hearted, fun. But we do occasionally touch on raw subjects, on deep subjects, and to get our guests used to that, we ask what some people have felt is perhaps a pretty hard-hitting question. So I do apologise. It's not meant to be. It's not meant to put you under any pressure, but it can catch people a little unexpected.
On you go then, Julian.
There's no right or wrong answer. I wonder if you could ask it, Mike. Is that all right? Because you're better at doing it.
No, you're going to ask the question.
I think I asked it last time.
No, I think you tried to get out of it last time. Successfully.
You're much better at me than us. Could you just? Cause I think it's better coming from you, Mike. I think it's better coming.
It's all very well appealing to my ego, but I think it's time that you man up and ask the question.
Shall I ask it? I'll make a fool of myself.
Okay.
Shall I ask it? Do you ask it? You ask it.
I'm sorry about this, Manon. I do apologise. The question really that a lot of our listeners like to know and the answer to, which obviously proves very difficult for my colleague here to ask, is what is your favourite bread?
My favorite bread is, I think it's very Dutch. It's what we call roggebrood.
Roggebrood?
And if you're not Dutch, you...
rough bread?
It's like a very dense type of bread.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could say rough bread, but it's not what it means, I think.
Okay.
Rogge is a type of wheat, I would say, or a type of grain.
Yeah.
And it's very dense bread. So you have very thin slices, and they're best eaten with a little bit of butter and cheese. At least for me.
Wow.
Is it a rye bread, Manon?
Yeah, I think it could be seen as a rye bread, yeah.
It's quite dark with little whitish...
Yes.
Yeah, I've had it. I think it's quite like the German pumpernickel.
It could be, yeah. I wouldn't know the name in Germany, or in German, but yeah.
Really nice. It's got a slightly sweetish, almost lemony flavour to it. And as you say, very, very thin slice.
Lemony, I wouldn't know. I don't eat it that often because it's something like, I don't eat the whole package of it because it becomes too much.
Yeah.
But a Swedish taste, yes.
No, I like it. I
think I've had this bread as well. And I think the Norwegians put their smoked brown cheese on it. And the Swedes and the Norwegians have it with pickled herrings.
I can imagine that is good too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Or
So there we go. That's the difficult question out the way.
Yes, all done. All easy now. Great. Good.
Now we can continue with the fun stuff.
Now we can continue with the fun stuff. I think at this point, what I'd like to say, Manon, is thank you very much indeed. A heartfelt thanks from me, because you and I crossed paths because you are the editor of Ubuntu Magazine, which is a wildlife and conservation magazine. And you very kindly put one of my photographs on the front cover of the latest issue. And nobody's ever done that before. So a great heartfelt thanks from me to you for giving me that exposure. Thank you.
Was that a pun, exposure?
Welcome. Yeah.
What, a photographic pun?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
I'm not into puns. unlike you. Oh, Julian's
There we go.
holding up a picture of episode 14 of Ubuntu Magazine. So let's start with
Nice.
this. Well, where on earth did the concept for Ubuntu Magazine come from? Why did you start it? How did it start? Where did it start?
And what does it mean?
Let's start with the whole history of it all, and then we'll get to what it means, because I think
Mhm.
what it means is a funny, separate story, and everything else will lead up to it. So I have a biology background,
Okay.
which is, I have a passion for nature, basically.
Mhm.
And as a result, I have a biology background and studies. And I always knew I wasn't going to become a biologist. But I did love hearing stories from people in the field,
Mhm.
especially from conservationists. And it took me a couple of years after graduating to figure out what I was going to do with that. Like, I like it and I think I should do something with it, but I wasn't sure how or what or why. And I was actually on a sailing boat in Norway that I couldn't sleep. And I was at 2 a.m. sitting at the table with one white paper, coming up with this idea of, okay, look, it should become a magazine, and all these thoughts going in my head of how it should look. Just a note, I have a passion for writing. I love photography, but I wouldn't say that I'm like a master of photography. And I know nothing about publishing or graphic design or any of that kind. So it was a thought and a wish, but something that I was not able to pull off myself. And luckily, I was in like an online group of entrepreneurs, and I got some people to join me. So, graphic designer, a journalist, another writer, an illustrator. And all these people said, I trust your vision. Let's go for it.
Okay.
And that's how Ubuntu was born in October 2021. So it's 4 years. Yeah, 4 years old, I would say. And then the name I wanted to launch so quickly that I thought, okay, we need a name. And I was actually watching a Netflix series about basketball, something very irrelevant. But they were talking about this philosophy, which came from the word Ubuntu. And Ubuntu comes from South Africa, from the townships, and means I am because we are. So each basketball player can only be like the one who makes the goal, or the one who, I don't know anything about sports, but the person in the field can only be that person in that moment and in that time because the other players are there surrounding him and collaborating with him. So in South Africa, in the townships, it really comes from you grow up to be the person you are because of the people surrounding you. And then I thought to myself, this is very true. I have my passion for nature because of my parents who have it as well. But I also have it because I grew up next to a national park. So that's like the biggest gift anyone could have given me in my young age. Because of that, I grew up with deers and foxes and I'm trying to think of the Dutch word, but badgers. So all these animals, are what I grew up with. And they shaped why I want to protect nature, and they shaped my vision of what I want to do with my life. So for me, Ubuntu is much bigger than just the human aspect, but also, well, the nature aspect. And so I thought, this has got to be the name. And it was a really quick decision because I just wanted to get started as fast as possible, but I still stand by my choice.
It's a great name because it has everybody questioning it, doesn't it? So better than BBC Nature magazine.
Yeah. Or National Geographic, or Nat Geo Wild.
Absolutely. Or Men Only.
Yeah.
Ignore that last one. But yeah, Ubuntu is fantastic. That's sorry.
Yeah.
What I like
that.
about
I like the philosophy. Sorry.
I particularly like the philosophy about that because I need to know now why you were on a boat off Norway, because I do that sort of thing too. But it also encompasses the people that you've brought together who've all bought into that philosophy to produce this magazine.
Yeah, it's so true. And I had this idea. I think 2 days later, I was talking to someone, and it was like an introductory meeting with a girl I had never met before, just online. I had talked to her and I was like, okay, I want to talk about your business and I want to talk about my writing career. I was doing a lot of freelancing at the time. And then I said, I just want to drop this idea by you and see what you think of it. And she's like, I don't have much to offer, but I like to illustrate, like just as a hobby. I could help out. And I had never even thought of having an illustrator for the magazine.
Okay.
But I was like, if I have one man on board, then I might be able to get others. So that really started, the ball to roll and to get shape, to take shape.
Wow.
Amazing. And so the magazine goes out as an e-magazine only, or you have a print form?
No. So unfortunately, I really want print, but it's being a bit difficult on from many perspectives.
Yeah.
I
And
want
it's
to be
not
sustainable. There's a thing or two to be said about that, because every time one has to open his browser and reload the magazine, and with all the imagery that we have, it also takes up a lot of capacity, and then using the internet in itself is not sustainable. So if you have a print magazine, and for example, it can be put in schools or hospitals or local, like more open spaces, and for example, 10 people read one magazine, then it makes itself sustainable because it's like being read multiple times. Or
Sure.
if you buy it and then you have read it through it and you say, hey, Mike, I don't need it anymore. Do you want to read it? And you give it to Mike, who's your neighbor or something, then it makes itself sustainable. So I don't think
That's
print
true.
is
At
the
the moment,
worst.
what happens is when I finish reading Ubuntu, I give my computer to someone else to read it. And it's very inefficient. I got through quite a few computers in the last month, and I don't know how long I can go on doing that, but it's very expensive, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Even though I use just cheap computers, it's pricey. Yeah.
The moral there being, don't give your computers away. And by the way, you lent your computer to DCI Jones last week?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Wipe the rest of your hard drive first.
No.
Yeah, because Detective Constable Inspector or whatever his name is, Jones, he's very keen to look into your computer.
You see.
Okay.
Well, look, second-hand pictures of polar bears in it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And sell them off eBay, of course.
Absolutely. And so I've only read, I must admit, Manon, I've only read the edition for which Mike did the amazing photo on the front cover. But I loved it. There's a great variety in there, isn't there, of articles? And it's not pushing environmental issues down your throat. It's allowing one to come to the realization, I think, that Ubuntu.
Yeah, that's what I think is very important. And maybe something that has to do with the fact that I started this alone is that I shaped this vision of what it has to be. And luckily now my partner is involved as well, and the team is much more involved as well, so they can help me shape what it has to become. But the reason why I wanted it to be so neutral, I can almost say, and not like pushing things down your throat or very pushing towards discussion, is because this is what I wanted to know 10 years ago, like when I was studying. So which projects are there? What are people doing? I always said, I'm not a biologist, I'm not a conservationist, so I'm not going into that field. But I had a very narrow view of what it actually entailed. So for me, it was like manatees in Florida, it was whales in Iceland, all these like very narrow images of, hey, these are the species that I can save, and these are the habitats that I can work in. And it was basically either cold in the Arctic or hot and humid in the Amazon. I didn't know that there was stuff happening right next to my home or in environments that I like more. And I also didn't realize that there were people traveling the world, putting their knowledge and skills to effort in different locations and stuff. I thought if I'm going to commit to the manatees in Florida, I'm going to spend the rest of my life in Florida with the manatees until I die. And that wasn't my kind of future that I had in mind. So I want people to know what's out there, and I want people to discover species that they'd never heard about, or that they think, wow, that's amazing, or get a new kind of wonder for the world, like the species that they never thought about before, or the ecosystems. And therefore,
get
we
an
don't
idea
want
of
to
the-
push things down people's throats. Yeah,
Yeah. They can get an idea of the relevance of the seemingly insignificant.
exactly.
Interesting.
And also the
I was going to say,
Sorry,
it's
I
like
was-
Stongi. I'm an incredibly enthusiastic ecologist, and the realization a dozen or so years ago that newly planted trees, will not grow unless they have mycorrhiza with them, and their own mycorrhiza. It blew my mind.
Yeah. Fungi is actually something that we haven't covered before. And there's so much that you can cover. It's impossible that we have everything covered in 14 issues. This is an opening to you. If you're keen, and if you know someone that we can interview alongside you working with fungi, then please let me know, and we can see what we can cover.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly.
There we go.
There we go.
There's an
Fantastic.
invitation.
Yeah.
It's something very different than polar bears, so
Oh, here we go.
They're
Polar
easier to
bears are
photograph.
boring.
no.
Mushrooms don't move as much. You can take 50 or 60 photographs of them, whereas polar bears, you got what, 2,
Yeah.
3? Yeah.
2 or 3 photos, and that's all you really need of a polar bear, isn't it?
Yeah. Pretty
Yeah.
much.
So I've got you bobbing around in a little boat off the coast of Norway. And you decide that you're going to put
True.
a worldwide graphic magazine to deal with conservation and wildlife. Where
Yep,
did you
that's
go?
about it.
Where did you go from bobbing around on a boat off Norway? What was next?
The boat in Norway was actually a very spontaneous idea.
Okay.
So, to give you a short timeline, in 2020, I graduated.
Okay.
And I graduated with my own business, which had nothing to do with nature conservation. So I have a very zigzag CV, is what I learned at work yesterday. So it went from left to right, and I have a lot of passions, so I felt very passionate about that at that time, and I still do.
Mhm.
So I had an episode of working in tiny houses on agricultural properties, or to replace agricultural farmland, basically. Then I became a writer, and as a writer, I thought I need just some time out. And I saw a post from someone on Facebook saying, I'm looking for people to sail with me to Norway.
Okay.
That's what I did for about a month's time. And then I came back and I sat in my office again in the Netherlands. So that was just a very short stint or spontaneous, travel thing.
Okay.
But I was at home, and I had been at home, meaning the Netherlands, for quite some years already, and also the year after. And then in 2022, I saw a post again of someone on Instagram this time. It was someone that I got referred to by a mutual friend, and he was looking for someone to travel with, preferably through South America, and I persuaded him to go to Africa.
Hang on.
And that was for about a year's time. At least that was the plan. And then I fell in love, and we said, if we're in love, then we don't need a deadline anymore.
Okay.
So I spent the past 3 years in Africa with him and our rescue dog, which we found in Nigeria.
You just brought back a crashing memory of a little dog in Malawi called Olimu, who would sleep under my bed, particularly when it was thundery storms and horrible, and I had to leave her behind. Broke my
That
heart.
is so sad.
Because she was a beautiful little dog. Of course, I was the Mzungu, I was the white guy, and of course the stray dogs quickly found out that the strange white guy living in the village would look after them and let them sleep underneath his bed when it was thunderstorms and things like that. Soft
Yeah.
touch. I'm the guy sitting at the dinner table who the dog will put their chin on my lap whilst I'm in my pie and chips. Oh, go on, Uncle Mike. Can we have some? Yeah, I'm
But
generally a soft touch. Okay, so you answered this peculiar advert saying, I want to drive a Land Rover through South America. And you went, yeah, that's quite good, but why don't we go to Africa instead? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so he had done this before in Europe,
Okay.
and he had done this with a guy that he met online as well.
Okay.
And this guy, so now our mutual friend, told me in August 21, if you ever want to go on a trip with Tobias, who's now my partner, just let him know. And he's looking for someone for next year.
Okay.
At the time that he told me, I was in a relationship and I was very happy with my job and work and everything. So I was like, what are you suggesting? I'm not interested. Like, I am happy to travel and everything, but I'm not going with a stranger when I'm in a relationship and I'm also happy with my place here at home. So I was like, what a strange suggestion. I'm not gonna take him up on it.
Sure.
And then 8 months later or something, I was in a very different place, not in a relationship anymore. I was really looking for a way out. So I thought about either moving to Canada. I had applied for a job in Africa, actually, or just traveling, but I didn't want to go by myself. And then I thought of him and this, proposal basically. And because I had applied for a job in Africa, I said, then if we're going to go, I want to go to Africa. The job was in Kenya. It took us 2.5 years to actually get to Kenya because we went on the West Africa side first. So I was very foolish with what I expected from Africa itself and everything that came with it. But we went to Africa. That was the gist of everything.
So, okay. I've got millions of questions here.
So many.
I'd love to have been in the cab.
Which makes sense.
Love to have been in the cab, and Tobias is sitting there. You're driving along, and Tobias says to you, "Manon, doesn't it worry you that I might be a serial killer?" And you laughed and went, "What would be the coincidences of that? 2 serial killers in the same car." As you drive the Land Rover across. Okay, but that's that one. What did you expect of Africa?
The funniest thing
You
was
had that
of course,
conversation.
I never met him until I contacted him on Instagram. And I knew that if I was going to go, because I knew what his intentions were with 1 year away, was that he at least needed to meet my parents. So I told him, come over to my house and then we can meet, because I knew my mom was not working that day and my dad was coming home at 5. And I was like, at least then he met them and they met him, which is always a good start because they can see who he is and they're not thinking, who is she leaving with? I don't know him. Let's just make sure that at least my parents consent. I'm quite easygoing. I went on a trip in Norway with a stranger that I'd never met and 5 other people that I'd never met. So I would say I'm a bit naive on the positive side.
Okay.
Trusting.
But I knew that this was a different case. So yeah, I'm very trusting.
And clearly with reason, it worked out. Here you are 3 years later.
Yeah. Oh
Really?
yeah, for sure.
That story blows me away. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's what a great story. Someone taking a chance, taking a huge risk.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily talking about this chap who you'd never met before, but giving up solidity, familiarity, reliability, and taking a punt and traveling up the west coast of Africa, which, no coast of Africa is particularly safe, is it? But I think the west coast is probably the least reliably safe side, isn't it?
It is notorious. Yeah.
Yeah. Why the West Coast?
Because at that point, I think, I'm not even sure what our reasoning was, but I think it was something like, let's get into Africa as quick as possible.
Okay.
And from the Netherlands, you can go to Spain very easily and take a ferry to Morocco,
Sure.
which
So you went
puts you on African soil. Yeah.
down to Sahara, is it
And
Mauritania?
then otherwise, we would have had to go to Turkey and then to Egypt.
Of course, you weren't flying, you were taking your Land Rover. So west coast of Sahara, from Africa, from Morocco down. So you went through the Sahara,
Yes.
Mauritania.
Yeah.
I've lost it. Where else is there?
So you have, first you have
Gabon.
Morocco, then you have Western Sahara, which, depending on whom you ask, belongs to Morocco or not. So it's a bit of a thing when you cross borders. What do you say? You have to be very neutral and just say, I agree, regardless of whom you speak.
Yeah.
Then you have Senegal. And then we crossed into the Gambia and again into Senegal because it's like Pac-Man kind of laying around the Gambia.
Yeah.
And then we went into Guinea-Bissau, Guinea. we skipped Sierra Leone and Liberia, which are also encapsulated by Guinea itself and then Ivory Coast.
But very unstable at the moment.
Yeah, and must say I'm sorry that we didn't go to Sierra Leone. It is beautiful. Like, we saw some images from other travelers, and we saw parts of Guinea that they didn't, that I loved as well. But I would love to return one day when it's safe and good to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Liberia is just one big adventure because they went in the rainy season, or at least with a lot of rain. And even though they were stuck in the mud for 3 days, those are the best stories. So yeah, I would love to go back one day.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. I'm guessing you missed out Burkina Faso.
Yes. Yeah, so we couldn't go anywhere inland. So Mali, Burkina Faso, they were all just non-negotiable. We couldn't even go into the north of Togo and Benin because there are some national parks that we wanted to visit, but it was just not recommended because of unrest.
Right.
Yeah.
So go on, there's 5 highlights. Because if you give us all the highlights, we'll be there till Tuesday week. So
True.
5 highlights.
Okay, so the first one is a bit of a combination. We wanted to see gorillas, but not in Uganda, but in Gabon, which is actually quite, I would say, a good kept secret, a well kept secret. So first we just knocked on someone's door and said, hey, can you show us some gorillas? And he's like, yeah, I'll wait until my brother is here and then I'll take you into the forest. Because he saw them every day, which is just incredible to think of. He lives there, maybe in a town of 6 people, like 4 houses, 6 people. And yeah, there's an elephant right there, and there's gorillas every day on my doorstep. And so he took us. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to show us any at that point, so they just weren't there. And then we had to move on due to other reasons, which I can't even remember. And we were able to see them in Mukalabadudu National Park, which is further south. And we went on an organized trip with habituated gorillas. But that was just incredible. In Uganda, I've seen videos of it being very, not to sound disrespectful, but zoo-like.
Yeah.
Like, they're so accustomed to people that you can just walk up to them and it seems normal. But these gorillas were habituated in the past, I believe it was 10 years. So this was a relatively new thing for them to have tourists coming in. And as luck would have it, we were actually there in the same visit as the Japanese researcher who had habituated them the 10 years prior.
Wow.
Amazing.
So that was like such luck. She was like explaining to us, like, we used to have our sleeping spot here with our camp, and she could name every gorilla, and it was just amazing. Yeah, that was definitely highlight number 1. I won't talk too long.
No, carry on.
Second one that immediately pops up is something not wildlife related, but I definitely got over my fear of heights when abseiling a waterfall next to a waterfall in Lesotho. It's world's highest, or Africa's highest, single drop abseil, and it's 200 meters, and you're like, I had to wait 3 days. So Tobias, my partner, went 3 days before me. And then the rains came, so the river got up and the waterfall was just crazy, and I had to wait 3 days. And at the point where it was like okay to go, but it was still like a lot of water that was coming down, I had my turn, and I'm very afraid of heights. And I was just soaked to the bone when I got at the end of the waterfall, and I just had to climb back up and everything. But it was absolutely thrilling. Yeah. So that was for sure the second. It's a difficult decision to choose between the riverbeds of Namibia and the Turkana region in Kenya.
Okay.
Because those two, I think, would say are comparable with being very remote, and just the people that live there are so resilient. Very different cultures, very different environments, yet somehow, yeah, comparable. So that was 2 times that we went off-road for quite a long time there. Really, yeah, fond memories of mine. And then number 4 and number 5, I'm picking up the big ones though. As I said, the ones with getting stuck in the mud are usually the best. So we have a story like that in Zambia, and we got caught in the rainy season, like in a national park with a dog. So we weren't supposed to be there. And we were not stuck until we saw some people that were stuck. We tried to drive towards them to help them. and we got badly stuck ourselves.
Ah,
But we have a Defender. It's lifted. It has big tires, and we were up to the chassis and beyond, basically. So it was really bad. And I'm quite tall, and I was in the mud up to my hips. So the elephants had stomped in the grass and made these holes. And now with the water, you just went through the mud and through the soil. And I just fell in until my hips. So it was quite daunting, but it was some of the best memories I have. These people had been stuck for 4 days, and just the Zambian mentality is something I will never forget. So, yeah, definitely one high on the list.
Tell us about the Zambian mentality.
and stuck for 4 days.
Julian-
If I was stuck somewhere for 4 days, I'd have written my will already.
Yeah. So,
I'd be getting ready to use the earth as my makeshift coffin.
yeah.
It's actually really sad because these people were transporting food and drinks to their town, but because they're quite poor, they couldn't lose or risk losing the products that they sold, basically, or that they had to sell.
Yeah.
So they were in a car, stocked with food and drinks, but they were drinking the muddy water, just the rainwater, but on the soil, and was really dirty
Oh,
for
Lord.
4 days straight, and they hadn't eaten anything. So this was a really sad story. They were super cold because all their clothes were soaked. So the first thing we did actually was I was eating a cookie when we met them, basically,
Yes.
and I said, "Do you want to have something?" And they were with 4 men, and I had a pack like of crackers. It was maybe, I don't know if you have them in the UK, but there's probably like 50 of them in there, and they were all gone in seconds. So I was like, these men are either very greedy or very hungry. And then one was shivering, and I was like, "Are you cold?" And I was like, "It has been raining for 30 minutes, but maybe you're cold." So we gave them all our jackets, all our sweaters, everything that we had, just to make them warm again. They helped us all throughout the night to dig our car out of the mud, because we were basically their rescue car. And then we said, like, maybe 9:30, "Shall we make you guys some food?" And they were like, "Yes, we haven't had anything in 4 days."
Gosh.
They had been working so hard digging us out, and they hadn't had anything in 4 days. They did not complain for 1 second. They did not bring it up for one moment. And they were still laughing. They were still making jokes. They were still working as hard as ever. And it just blew my mind. It was like,
It's incredible.
how? Like, it's something that I would not expect to see in the Netherlands, nor in Europe even, to have such a mentality. If you know these people have food, meaning us, I would say, "Hey, I'm sorry to bother, but I haven't had any food in 4 days. Do you maybe have an apple for me or something that we can just get some energy before we get started?" It's polite, but I would expect people to ask.
Yeah.
And these people did not. So I was just gobsmacked. Yeah, absolutely. Their mindset and the mentality just blow me away.
That's so humbling, isn't it? I get ragey if I'm not given enough grated parmesan at a Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get ragey about all sorts of things.
I do. I'm a very ragey person generally, aren't I? Yeah.
Yeah. I always found it remarkable in Africa where you would walk, or I'd be traveling for hours or days, and you think that you're alone. And then suddenly
Yeah.
there's somebody else there in the woods. Where did you come from? Where are you going? People appear from nowhere, don't
Man,
they?
this is so true. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's number 4 then. So what's number 5?
I was just thinking of that, and I think it must be Nigeria. So I was telling you about the dog that we rescued, and we had an absolutely fantastic time in Nigeria, even though nothing went according to plan. So first of all, we were with 5 cars in a convoy because we thought it was dangerous, not per se for tourists, but it wasn't safe either. So we just took precautions and went with 5 cars, 10 people in total. And about halfway through, you have the first section of highways, a lot of police checkpoints, but you can drive normal speeds. And then the second part is the highlands, where you cross Cameroon. And it's all off-road. You don't want to be there when it's rainy season because you just You'll slip and slide and you won't get anywhere. And right before this, basically this shift, one of the cars from our team broke down, which is very unfortunately. We were planning to cross in like 7 to 10 days because we were close to rainy season. And they broke down with a fully customized car. So it wasn't like a Defender that you just swap parts of, but it was very difficult to find their parts. Now, long story short, eventually 3 of the cars decided to continue with everyone's consent, of course. And we decided to stick with these other 2 who had 2 dogs, which was lovely because we love dogs. And in this place where we stranded, which was a very rundown motel, there was this small puppy who I just adored from the get-go. She was like crawling underneath the van and being like super shy, but who are these new people? Like, I might want to get to know them. And because we had dogs in the team, we had dog cookies. So we started feeding her and trying to gain her confidence and trust. And long story short, once again, the whole rebuild of the car took 2 weeks. We stayed with them for 2 weeks. We took care of the puppy, just made sure that she was happy and healthy and fed. Well, because we wanted to take care of her. And eventually the owner said, just grab and go. So then we had a puppy all of a sudden. Then the 2 cars, so us with our friends and 3 dogs, went into this highland section of Nigeria, which was the most stunning area of Africa. And I'm not lying. Like, it was mind-blowingly beautiful. I would go back there in an instant. And I also, that's a sidetrack, but because we talked about Ubuntu, because we had this 2-week delay, I was actually able to publish another issue of Ubuntu while being stuck in that camp with the dog, basically. So that was a happy coincidence. But just this whole 3-week section of our expedition, yeah, it's just a great memory.
Sounds incredible. Sounds absolutely amazing.
Yeah. A lot of bad things happening, and yet it's one of the best things that has ever happened.
Sometimes in adversity, we see the joy of small things, don't we? Much more than we would in humdrum routine situations.
So true.
See, I'm envious of every aspect of this journey. Really, I see now I've wasted my life. The past 58 years have been useless and rotten.
You can still go.
We've just
like,
had
if you want to become inspired, don't listen to my story, but there's this guy, and he started traveling at age 50. He is, I would say, all of Africa. I think he has, in the past 15 years or so, done more expeditions than many people can count, like to the geographical center of Africa, which is like in the middle of the Congo Basin, and he has traveled all the outermost edges of the continent. And you can start at any time. Let him be your inspiration, because it's, another remarkable story.
Do you know, I was inspired.
Don't feel sorry for him, because the man sitting beside me has touched so many lives in so many ways in his 52 years. It's not, he couldn't document it. It would be a Wikipedia in its own right. So don't be taken in
I'll
by
start
his...
my own podcast and I'll invite you. And so that we can listen to your stories as well.
Yeah, don't be taken in by this.
And thanks for saying 52. I appreciate that. I'll pay you tomorrow. One of my greatest inspirations has been, I think, one of my best friends about 3 years ago did a boating course with me and used the knowledge you gained on that boating course to become a guide was Svalbard, wasn't it, Mike? And has taken the most amazing photos of polar bears. So,
amazing. Wait, are you talking about Mike now?
Yes.
Was it 3 years ago that you started this journey?
About 3 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. And when was the course? 3-4 years ago, something like that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I've been taking photographs for a long time, Manon, but it was only about 4 years ago. I can't remember, but like I had this phone call and it was winter. And we lived down on the south coast of Britain near the Isle of Wight, which is... it's quite a benign and gentle place until you start looking at the fact that because of the Isle of Wight, you have the Atlantic forcing in from one way and you've got the English Channel forcing in from the other way. And it's also home to some of the biggest ports. Think Rotterdam, style, if we can, in Britain. So we have sailing boats and we have big container shipping coming in and around with these dangerous tides and bad weather. And he said, would I like to do an offshore powerboat course in the winter in this area? And
Mike swore at me and hung up.
I went, you've got to be joking, this is ridiculous, and swore at him and hung up and went into the kitchen. And Trudy said, was that Julian? I went, yeah. What's he want? So I told her, and she went, what did you say? I said, I told him where to go. Yes. And so Trudy said, I got a feeling you haven't understood what he was saying. And I said, what was he saying? And she said, that's your best mate asking you if you would help him achieve something that he wants to do. And you just told him to go away.
But not as politely as that.
So I picked up the phone and I said, when's the course? How much? Okay, let's do it. So suddenly I find myself with the qualifications to drive a powerboat offshore. I'm halfway towards my seafarer's ticket. And a couple of months later, I'm in a small boat in the Arctic waters of Svalbard, taking photographs and enjoying myself, thinking I could be driving that boat and I could be doing this. And a few people said, why don't you qualify as a guide? I looked at that, and then I took myself to college and qualified as a seafarer and went on a course to learn how to handle a rifle properly and get my license. And then I became a guide.
That is incredible.
It was all his fault. All his fault.
That is just incredible.
Yeah. So don't be taken in by his subtle good looks and his...
I stay at home. That's all I ever do. I stay at home and gaze out of the window thinking, if only.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Well, luckily you can have the stories of your best friend.
Absolutely.
He's got his own stories.
But getting back to Africa, so you went for 6 months and stayed for 3 years?
We were supposed to go for 1 year, and then we stayed for 3.
Okay.
Something my mom didn't very much, but yeah.
I was going to say, presumably, Mike and I are both fathers, and I can just picture the scenario with growing dread. My daughter says, I'm going to go off to Africa for a year, down the dangerous side, with someone I met on the internet. It'll be great. And then after a year, I'm staying on, she says in a voice that sounds suspiciously like the man they met once. I'm staying on for another year, Daddy. It's fine. Your poor parents, honestly.
Yeah, they didn't like it a single bit. And I can understand why. I always told them I was going to travel. So this has been a theme since I was like 12, 14. And I always said, I'm going to travel the world. And I love them with all my heart. I always listen to them very carefully. So I regretted some of the choices that I made earlier on in my life because I wanted to abide by what they told me. And I knew, okay, now I'm not going to be stopped in any way. And I think they knew that as well. So they, said, okay, let's go. And it's okay. But when you expect something and when that expectation changes, you have to keep on adapting, which is, of course, super difficult. So I can imagine their dread and their, feelings of sadness, basically, of us being away, because his parents are used to him being gone for longer times. But this also for them was like the longest time having to miss their son. The funny thing, though, is we are both children from like a family with 2 kids. So I have a brother and he has a brother. And always when we would call either of our parents, the message would be like, I talked to you like last week. What's new? And then you would ask, okay, when did you last talk to my brother? 2 months ago. Why? Even though my brother is like 45 minutes away and I'm like half across the world. But there's this whole different vibe going on with us being so far away and then not talking to us for 2 weeks felt like a very long time.
Sure.
But the other lost sons, basically, they could not talk to them for a month and they would be like, yeah, so what? It was always very funny to see that difference.
I'm sure, Manon, that your parents are actually very proud.
I was going to say the same thing. I think they must
They
be
are.
incredibly proud looking at what you achieved and
I think.
making the most of life. I joke, I've tried wherever possible to make the most of life, and also to encourage my daughters to make the most of life. It's so important to do that, and you're doing it for all sorts of reasons, not just your own.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
And with the result being Ubuntu Magazine, which I think will change change thoughts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And the funny thing was, so coming back to the magazine, when I said yes to traveling, I had only ever launched one magazine. And Tobias said, we are not going to work on this trip. There's no way, because I've had this before. My previous travel buddy was working and it just doesn't work with deadlines and with stress. And I said, okay, that's difficult for me because I'm like quite a bit of a workaholic. And I had actually lined up a new job lined up to work remotely while away in Africa. So I had to say goodbye to this potential new thing. But I said, there's one thing I'm not saying goodbye to, and that's the magazine. And he was like, okay, we'll make it work. And a lot has changed since then because I was doing bi-weekly meetups. So just online meetings with the team, which was like 5-6 persons at the time. But that was difficult because in Europe, you have quite well internet everywhere. In Africa, there's just none. So I had to really scrap those out of the agenda and say, okay, we're going to work without meetings, do everything online. I'll check in as often as I can, which was a whole shift. And Tobias was not involved in Ubuntu in any way. He, funnily enough, has the same background in biology as I do.
Okay.
But I never really asked him, like, do you want to become involved? Because we were travel buddies and we were friends. And I didn't want to entangle everything and make things more difficult. Until at one point, I was having a meeting talking about a website and SEO, whatever you call it, and all this bunch of stuff. And it sounds like you're struggling. You do know that I have done this for the past 7, 8, 10, I don't even know the number of years. And I'm like, no, because we only met 7 weeks ago, so I don't actually know that. And he goes, okay, I can help you with it. And from that moment on, he's like super involved with Ubuntu Magazine as well. And he knows a lot of things that I don't. So we shaped Ubuntu Magazine together while being on the road. And issue 2 until issue 14 has been published while traveling. And only 2 issues have been published in the same country, which was South Africa in February 24 and in May 25.
Wow.
So it's quite crazy to think of this fact that we're like an international magazine, a global magazine, but we have also been published. I pushed the button on many different countries.
Sounds absolutely incredible. Yeah.
It is amazingly incredible. I don't know. Okay. I'm
very
loving
stressful
this.
at times, by the way, but yeah.
Any good job should be.
Yeah. I'm loving this. I'm learning so much. And of course, one of the things that you won't be aware of, Manon, is that Veterinary Ramblings is also known as a source of continual professional development, or CPD as we call it, whereby some of our listeners who are professionals, whether they be solicitors or veterinary surgeons, can log in, listen to the show, and then send to their notified bodies that they have been doing continual professional development. And part of the show, we like to offer our guests, that's you, the opportunity to give us a minute or so of CPD.
Not or so, Mike, is it? It's a minute flat. It's 60 seconds.
It is 60 seconds.
It is not a second more than a second less.
And I'm
It's
horrified because guess what I haven't brought with me?
You haven't brought your timer, have you? We've only been doing this for 5 years. Yeah.
I'll use my
It's just
phone.
another.
Are you happy doing a 60-second CPD challenge, Mel?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. What would be the title of your 60-second CPD? And then what I'll do is I'll introduce it, I'll count you in, and then I'll use my timer so that you can see how you're doing with regards to the time. So what would you like to talk to us
In
about?
which continent are we doing this? Because I'm watching at your world clock.
60 seconds is 60 seconds anywhere, Manon. I'm surprised you didn't know that. Although it's a little longer.
Really?
A little longer
How's
if you live
that?
fast there, which you wouldn't know if you didn't go there.
How's that? Mike now doesn't hold up his world clock. He holds up his 60-second timer to the screen.
Sorry.
That's quite all right. I
Love it.
appreciate you pointing it out to me, because I would have probably continued quite happily and not seen any of that. And you'd have been going, what's going on? And most people, fortunately, listen to the show because, as you can tell, we don't have the face. We have the face for radio, don't we?
Definitely the face for radio.
Faces for radio. So most people listen to the show rather than watch it. But for those people that do watch it and watch the 60-second CPD bits, the countdown clock is quite important.
But for those people
Yes,
who are listening,
agreed.
I describe Mike and I as both looking, slightly like Bruce Willis, that sort of rugged.
That's a very
Or is it Danny DeVito? One of the two.
That's a
I
sad
always get
reference,
them mixed
Julian.
up.
Julian, that's a sad reference because you're perceiving Bruce Willis yippee-ki-yay in his singlet, taking on the Nakatomi Tower
Yeah.
and saving the world. And of course, if you've been watching your news, big hearts, heartfelt, sending our love out to Bruce, who is bordering on no longer with us.
Yeah.
And a very sad story. So I'd be quite happy to compare myself with Bruce Willis in his Nakatomi Tower days.
Yeah, the younger Bruce.
The younger Bruce Willis, but we're not that many years away
Okay.
from where he is now.
Shh, don't even say that, Mike. Don't even
Let's
say
go there. So I've forgotten what we were doing.
Okay.
What were we doing?
Who are you?
Yeah, quite. Who are you? Where are we? What are we doing? What's the title? Manon, sorry. What is the title of your 60-second CPD?
The title is How to Become Attractive to the Media.
Oh, hang on. We better take notes on this
Yeah,
one.
absolutely.
Yeah, you and I better listen to this one, Julian. Okay, Manon Verijdt, 60-second CPD on how to become attractive to the media, starting now.
Amazing. So being seen or being heard, being able to share your story, or perhaps even getting more sales if you're an entrepreneur, all comes down to one thing: getting seen or getting presented in the media. But how do you do that if you're like 13 in a dozen? The most important thing is to have your own story. And that's why I would say make a story booklet or a story book. Now, what does this mean? If, Mike, you want to become part of the media or you want to be exposed in another magazine, you need something more than just a nice polar bear photograph. You need to share who you are and what your reasoning is or what your story behind what you do is. So this could be the story that you just told me about Julian and the boat. So I advise you to make a story or a storybook of things that are personal and that will grab the people in the media's attention. So what are you going to write down?
Keep going.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Fantastic. And that's a great idea, isn't it? Yeah, I like that.
That's
Good
fantastic
advice.
idea.
It is.
And clearly has worked for you. But how many stories and how do you pick which one? You put them all in a hat and I have that one, that story. The Nigerian stories. Sorry, the 135th Nigerian stories.
So I would say write down anything that is remarkable to you. So for example, one that I didn't write down when I was younger, but I would write down now if I could or if I'd want to, is the fact that I was chasing my own cat when I was about 5-6 years of age with my shoes the wrong way around. So my left boot on my right foot and my right boot on my left foot, basically. And I was chasing my cat in my garden because he caught a mouse. And I thought it was very sad for the mouse. I eventually saved the mouse. And that is basically my very first story as a nature enthusiast or wildlife lover, I would say, because I just thought it was sad. And that's the thing I have a photo with. So if anyone ever wants a photo of my younger self doing that, I think it's something that could grab the attention of a journalist or someone else in the media. So it could be something that has happened to you before, could be the story of the boat experience and resulting in a career and some amazing photographs. It could also be something like a story in the supermarket where someone tells you something and you're like, this is such a great thing. I should remember this, or it makes you feel a certain way. It could be a huge victory or just a moment that really tore you apart. All these emotions are relatable to people. And in some stories, you might need the sad story, and in others, you might need the victory, and in others, you just want to become relatable as a person. For example, Mike, I would look up to you if I would read an article just about the fact that you're in the Arctic photographing polar bears or whales or whatsoever. And I'd be like, oh my God, I don't know how he got there, but this sounds like something that I could become jealous of. Whereas if we would flip the story or add on to the story and say, hey, I was just a regular guy with a regular job, and at X years of age, I won't guess, my friend invited me on this boating course, and hence my life took a turn for, this way, basically. And it makes it so relatable. Okay, I'm 27. Mike did this when he was 31, just guessing for another random story. That makes it relatable and makes me think, okay, he was already past his student years, for example, and still he went to study for something. So these small things, rather big, small, happy, sad, whatsoever, I would write them all down. Just in a little notebook, you have these, we have these Moleskine, I think they're called.
Yeah.
Just like the tiny notebooks.
Yeah.
Just put them in your pocket, wherever you go, or in your bag, backpack, whatever, and just gather some stories to share. They also make great anecdotes for a LinkedIn post, by the way. So if you ever need some social media inspiration, these could be used as well.
Interesting.
I like that.
I like that a lot. I think one of the difficulties that we have is that we come from a generation where you don't share that sort of thing. And I think also...
Yeah, makes sense.
We've also both, if we talk about Julian and myself, we've both worked very hard in our respective fields and doing what we do, but we also struggle with... We've both said this, we've both admitted it, haven't we, Julian? Let's open our hearts up a little bit here, where maybe I got lucky at that point and anybody would have done exactly the same as I would have done or I did at that point. And of course, the reality is that opportunity and that ability to take that opportunity doesn't occur to everybody else. It's that one moment in time where that opportunity becomes a chance for you in that moment to make that change. Because I don't know about Julian, I'm finding your story very fascinating and inspirational. I'm so excited about this episode going out. I really am. I think it's brilliant.
Just adding on to you, Mike, being like, it's so easy to compare and to think in a way badly of the fact that things were different a couple years back. For example, my parents didn't have the same opportunities or even the same perspective on life as I have now. And even the generation that is coming after me, now being like 16, 18 years of age, there's not that much difference between them and me, but there's still enough to see a difference.
Yeah.
And I can be envious of that because I'm like, where my mindset was still, I have to get a paper, like a studies or a bachelor's or a master's. That was something ingrained from my father, really. But it wasn't a free choice. Like I thought about not doing it, but it wasn't really a choice. And I think for kids nowadays, if they just want to become, also not disrespectful sounding, but like a TikTok influencer, or if they want to have a totally different life, it's much more easily accepted.
Yeah.
Yes.
So with every time, with every generation comes different perspectives on life. And I always knew that I wasn't going to walk a straight path, which is still very normalized even nowadays, like just studies, job, house, kids.
The sequential.
It's for 9 to 5 is still very common, but I always felt it wasn't for me. Yeah.
There definitely is a quote about that. I'll go back to the Shakespeare one in a minute, but I mentioned Khalil Gibran before, this Lebanese poet who wrote about children. and said, your children are not your children. They're the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. And this is the best bit. It says, you may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. And it's that, isn't it?
Mm.
Your parents are very proud of you, clearly.
It's beautiful.
But the times they haven't been proud of you have been when they've been frightened, because what you did was not what their paradigm has told them, what their life has told them. And all of us, when we have children, think, great, I'd like them to do this. I want them to have this sort of life, which is sequential, which doesn't have fear, doesn't have poverty, doesn't have violence or anything nasty. There's no one close to them is going to die. No boyfriend or girlfriend is going to leave them. And that can never be. And nor should our wishes for them happen. What we do want is for them to ultimately be happy. Not at anyone else's expense, but ultimately to be happy. And if there's contentment within that, it'd be.
Yeah.
I found this Shakespeare quote.
Oh, go on.
So,
is this Leaving on the High Tide?
Yeah. So there is a tide in the affairs of men, which, taken at the flood, leads on to fortune. Omitted, all the voyage of their life is bound in shallows and in miseries. On such a full sea are we now afloat, and we must take the current when it serves, or lose our ventures. In other words, it's God's goldfish, isn't it?
What?
Carpe diem.
Mm-hmm.
I think that translates as God goldfish.
I think it translates as seize the day.
Makes more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the other one about Gloria being sick in a
But that's
transit
okay.
van on Monday, that's a different one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, see the day, take opportunities. And that's been my policy most of my life, is to say yes rather than no. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant stuff. So we're getting very philosophical here.
We are. All on the basis of Manon's
Lots of quotes, but
fantastic
beautiful ones.
CPD,
Yeah.
which I think is meritorious of a certificate. Or it's not, is it?
Not at this point in time, because if we can impose upon you further, Manon, do you have a question or a reflective question or a philosophical question for our listeners, please?
Oh, so I thought about the question, of course, with the CPD being, what would be your story?
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
That is definitely something that people can think about. Yeah. And it, as I said, it can be with something which seems so mundane to you because it just happened to you or because it seems you have normalized it. But think about something that sets you apart from your neighbor or your colleague or someone in your same line of work and say, hey, I have this and he or she hasn't experienced this. That doesn't make you any better. You don't have to feel like empowered by it, but it can be your story to tell when you want to reach the media or when you want to grab someone's attention.
I think you've summarized that beautifully with what would be your story.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so.
Fantastic.
And so, a certificate, CPD. And what we haven't really touched on is you describe yourself as a multi-potentialite, which I guess we refer to more in the UK as a polymath. And you are. It's become quite clear. There are no limits to what you have already done, nor what you can do. So I've given you a certificate of being everything, everywhere, all at once.
Okay.
And I've
That is
hopefully managed
amazing.
to encapsulate a few things in your life. You like trekking, you like finding new places. So there's a picture of Striding Edge
Yeah.
in the UK. You like dogs, and so there's a picture of my poor old dear dog, Jake. We haven't mentioned your
Love it.
kayaking, but there's me kayaking with my eldest daughter in Thailand.
Amazing.
Oh, and
Love
that was
that
when
too.
you were sick, wasn't it?
At the
Oh, no.
No, that's a bit of food. That's a bit of
Oh, sorry.
good old English fish and chips. Because you said you like
Yes.
food.
Yes, true. I do.
Mhm.
We can send you the
Amazing.
CPD certificate, no problem at all, Manon. Quick question for you. Where's the dog now and what's its name?
The dog is sleeping,
Okay.
probably in my spot on the bed, if you want to be specific.
Okay.
And her name is Nimba. That comes from a mountain on the border of Guinea, Liberia, and Ivory Coast. And we weren't planning on taking a dog from Africa back home. We were actually saying we want a rescue dog, but preferably from somewhere in Europe, like Romania or Greece. But at that point, when we were parked there, we vowed that if we were going to get a female dog, she would be called Nimba. Hence the name.
Fantastic. There we go.
And there's a whole other story, a veterinary story there of how you got a dog from Africa back to Holland or back to the Netherlands.
Do you know, there are so many stories. I think we're going to have to get Manon on again. There are so many.
I
other
would be
stories.
happy to.
Yeah.
But I'm also aware that it's very late where you are, Manon.
Also, okay, no worries.
Yeah, I think, it probably just beholds me to say, Manon, thank you so much for sharing your story and asking so many questions and providing such inspiration. And I know you'll have taken all of our listeners with you and will have inspired them to do a lot of other things. And if you've enjoyed listening to Manon, don't forget to log in to Veterinary Ramblings, veterinaryramblings.com, and send us a line, drop us a line, and ask us a question or two questions, give us some feedback, and we'll do our best to take your ideas on board and incorporate them into one of the next or future episodes of Veterinary Ramblings. Manon Verijdt, thank you so much for sharing your story with you.
Thank
What I
you
have to
both for
do-
having me.
You're very
Absolutely.
welcome. May your dog go with you.
May your dog go with you.
What may Nimba go with you?
Indeed, yes, may she.
Cheers.
Cheers.